everybody, and welcome to the Penelope Possum channel with me, your hostess, Penelope the Possum. It's here, guys. It's Spooky, Scary Saturday 69, baby! We did it. We reached the funny number. We reached the funny number. If I ever make it to 420, you better believe I'll do something funny, too. I'll probably do something like, bad trip stories or something if I ever get to 420. But we have 3 videos by IMR Scary Tales because they're our favorite and we love them a lot. We've got We've got 3 true Tinder horror stories, 3 Valentine's Day horror stories, and 3 more Tinder horror stories. I was gonna add more, but I decided not to, mostly because, I didn't really feel like it. I flooped the pig. Splunk. I see we're having incredibly engaging conversations in the chat today. I've discovered I have an enormous bruise on my knee recently. Don't know what that's about. But, hey, is the cheese boy going nuts today? What are you talking about? No? I was just adjusting my heating pad so I can, keep my legs warm. It's not too cold out, but it helps with the slight ouchiness of my knee. I have 3 cats in my room. I have Louise, Rose, and Toast. Toast's all the way in my yarn bin. She's been up in that yarn bin. Last week he was going bonkers. Oh God, wasn't he? No, not this week. This week Cheems is being normal-ish. Normal enough for an orange cat, but no, it's not like last week. Lip balm. Yeah, no, it's not at all like it was last week. He's not going bonkers. I don't know what was up with him. Yeah, he's orange. That's what was up with him. He's too orange for his own good. Oh, what a ham. Anyways, let's get right into it.
I met a guy named Jason on Tinder one night. In minutes, he accepts me and we started planning our date. Jason said he lives on the outskirts and would happily send a cab for me to pick me up for dinner tomorrow night. He sounded rich, so I said yes. I wore my most beautiful red dress, with my hair tied up so he can get a good look at my pretty face. I matched them with red heels, so when I walk, he gets the full package. Around 7:30, a black Mercedes stops outside my house. The driver took me to the big villa on top of the hill. Jason was waiting for me at the door. Hey, Sydney. Hope you felt comfortable.
Oh, heck yeah. Your car is bigger than my apartment for sure.
Cute humor. Come on in. There was something about the way he spoke that felt odd. Yet, I smiled and followed him into the house. Jason and I have been matched for a Tinder date. I've never been to a house like that before. It had everything. A swimming pool, fireplace, chandelier, open kitchen, everything. Jason poured 2 glasses of wine and we sat down at the dinner table. I started gobbling the food as it was so delicious. But after 3 to 4 mouthfuls, my head started to feel weird. My vision was blurry, and I could see a huge grin on Jason's face.
Nah, girlie, you've been drugged.
What's in the food?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, God. What's happening to me?
Mine is Friday the 13th. I woke up in a room with red lights. I could feel my body strapped and tied to an operating table. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound of metal and saw Jason sharpening his knife standing near my feet. His face was hidden behind a hockey mask, but I could still see his evil eyes peeking at me. I screamed and tried to move my body. It was too late. He came closer holding the knife. It came down to my neck and I knew that this is the end for me. When I heard a gunshot followed by a girl's scream.
Die, you pig!
Jason's body fell to the floor and smoke started coming out of his face. A girl rushed towards me, and she was missing an arm.
I'm Riley. This butcher took my arm and kept me locked in for days. Come on, we need to get out of here.
We were shaking, waiting outside in the cold, but staying inside
okay,
didn't feel...
honestly, both of these girls don't look very good. I mean, the girl without the arm looks a little better than the blonde. The brunette looks a little bit better, but they both look a little
like a good idea anymore.
bad.
The cops
This art
arrived
style's
and get
not
us the
doing
medical
anybody
care we
any
need,
favors.
but the biggest shock of my life came afterwards. When the police searched Jason's house, they didn't find his body. It was like he was never shot. Riley left for the hospital and I was escorted home safely. I deleted my Tinder account and swear to never go on dates with strangers. When I threw myself into my bed, I drowned
That
in
is a good
sleep
question.
immediately.
Where'd the
I
gun
woke
come
up
from?
hearing a glass break. I don't have Nay a pet, so my face turned pale with fear. I slowly looked out my window, and there he was, Jason, trying to get inside the house. He was already
Okay,
twisted.
before anyone calls BS, yes, it is technically possible to survive a shot to the head. There are people who have been documented multiple different times who have gotten shot in the head, who have survived. It just usually leads to lifelong brain damage and issues.
The window lock to open it. I ran out of the room and heard a huge breaking sound behind me. Oh my god, he's inside. I hid under the kitchen
Flames
table,
Gabby
but I could still
Gifford?
see him below the knee.
I don't know
He
who that
walked to
is.
the kitchen and started scanning his
I'm
surroundings.
assuming that's someone else who got shot in the head.
Sydney, do you want to play hide and seek? Fine then. My turn. I put my hand on my mouth not to make any sound. He closer to the kitchen table, and suddenly his strong hands pulled me by the hair, and I was once again in his grasp. He had a tight grip that was paining like hell. I knew he is going to end my life, so without thinking,
I see.
I reached for the knives on the kitchen desk. I managed to grab one after a lot of trouble and stab Jason in the chest before he could stab me.
What is with
He
this
passed out in my
story? It's
kitchen
so
and rushed
poorly
to my
animated and
neighbors.
drawn.
I told them everything and they called the cops. But when the cops searched the house, they returned empty-handed
Okay,
once
now
again.
I'm calling bull.
Jason's body was nowhere to be found. I was pretty sure that Jason is not a human being. Otherwise, surviving 2 times from death is not logically possible. My neighbors told me to stay with them for a couple of days, but I didn't want to live in fear. I kept my doors and windows locked for 3 days and nothing happened. On the 4th night, it was raining heavily when my doorbell rang. I didn't open it right away.
Who is it?
It's Bobby! Open the door, Sid! What is Bobby doing here? We had a bad breakup, but I kinda liked him. I opened the door and got in all drenched with a backpack. He hugged me, saying, I was so worried about you. I heard about everything. Just let me stay with you a couple days, okay?
Fine.
Seriously, I was really scared to live alone at that time. We had a nice dinner, and Bobby and I smoked a bit. It was like the college days again. After a lot of lovemaking,
Oh,
we went
dear.
to bed.
Nobody
This
needs
time,
to
I
hear
didn't
that.
wake up to any sound or disturbance. I just woke up. But something was weird again. Bobby was not on the bed. I came out to the living room, calling out to him, when I saw him lying on the couch. I walked close and turned on the lamp. He was dead. Someone broke his neck, but there was a small pen drive on his forehead with a note, "Play
Okay,
me."
this is-
I did play. Someone was filming me and Bobby just a few hours ago. Bobby was sitting beside me searching for something in his backpack, and then he found it. It was a gun. He pointed it to my passed out face, and just when he was about to pull the trigger, the maker of the video took him to buy his neck. The screen turned black. Then the camera turned into selfie mode, and I saw the man behind the camera. It was Jason. He raised his hand holding a white note, then walked Bobby's dead body and opened his mouth. He put the note in and closed it and left. The video ended. The fact that Bobby came to kill me and pin it on Jason is a shocking truth. But the fact that Jason saved my life because he wants to end it with his own hands gives me no sleep at night.
That
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video.
I'm
If so-
straight up calling baloney on that one. That was straight up baloney. True Tinder horror stories. Sorry, I am our scary tales. I don't think that one was true. I think that was just a fun little writing experiment.
So please leave a like. And also,
Yeah,
a
I'm
small
also
percentage of
calling
people
BS
that watch
on
my
this
videos
one.
are actually subscribed.
But I'm
If you
sure
want to
I am
support
our
this channel
scary
and
tales
make this
doesn't
channel
really
reach
have
the
any
1
way
million
to
mark,
fact
please
check
consider
these
subscribing.
stories, so
It's
I'm
free
not
and
blaming
you can
them.
change your
I'm
mind
blaming
later.
the person who
Enjoy.
wrote the story and sent it in.
I sat down nervously at the table, my
Okay,
heart
now
thumping.
we're back to more of a classic IMR scary tales style. What was that noise? There is a Hi, do you know what that noise is?
Sounds like somebody's engine blowing up.
Probably one of those dumbasses.
She hadn't looked
with-
this beautiful on Tinder, and my mind raced as I tried to remember what we had talked about. It felt weird now, sitting across from her. So, how was your day?
Oh, it was just peachy.
Yikes.
What about you?
David. I know my name is easy to forget.
Yeah. I mean, I've met people named Jason and Michael and all sorts of other things. Sure, I've even met someone named Fred or Freddy, but the hockey mask was already pure balonium, you know? As soon as she started talking about how he had a hockey mask on and how he... Yeah. It's just... I can only suspend my disbelief so much. March. It's like, how much do you really expect someone to believe? Hey, man, some guys just get that desperate. Just look at how many fat, ugly chicks have kids.
Yet.
I'm so sorry. I must have been nervous, David.
It was weird. She had never had trouble with my name when we talked over Tinder. Still, I suppose that it was just a mistake and I tried to ignore it. You know, I've always loved ramen. I'm so glad we decided to go to this place.
Ramen is great.
Her voice gave me the chills, and for some reason I found myself wanting to get out of there. I found myself wanting to get away from the beautiful woman sitting in front of me. And then my phone
Beautiful, hun.
buzzed. I was glad to have an excuse to turn away from her, and I looked down at my phone. The notification, however, freaked me out. It was from Tinder.
David, where are you? I'm out front of the ramen place. Didn't you say you wanted to meet up here?
Sweetheart, where do you see beautiful?
My heart raced. I glanced upward toward the girl in front of me, sweat on my brow. She didn't have a phone out. Nowhere. I heard another notification and I looked down.
David, I'm here. I'll be standing in front of the ramen place waiting.
I glanced up and that was when my heart sank. I saw her, the girl I had talked to on Tinder, standing out in front of the place.
Bitch, how the fuck did you see that? Right there, outside of the... Let's scroll back. Look at this.
Nowhere.
And look at that. How do you mix those two up? How do you say that looked better than that? I don't know if I'm being stupid or something.
I think you'll have to excuse me while I go to the restroom.
Take your time, David.
I bolted up from my chair as if I had been electrocuted and started to walk away, my heart pounding. I was sure she knew something was up, but I had to get away. I started running down the street and could feel her eyes on me as I went. I glanced back and my heart leapt into my throat. She was coming out of the shop. Whatever weird doppelganger of my date I had met. She was following me.
You are
I began to speed up, my heart beating as I ran. The dark streets around me seemed too empty, and I began to panic. Glancing back, I almost screamed in shock. The woman who was chasing me wasn't moving like a human. Her skin was pale, her eyes were turning red, and she seemed to be getting faster and faster. In desperation, I ducked into an alleyway and tried to call for help. No one answered. The streetlights flickered and went out, and I was left in the dark. All of a sudden, I heard footsteps coming toward me. I could see it, whatever it was, standing there in the moonlight. It was tall, pale, and almost eerily still. It had 2 gigantic rows of teeth, and its entire face was split into a grin, as if its smile and teeth reached from ear to ear. It had no nose, but I was sure it could see me and hear me. Suddenly,
What does a nose
however, I
have
heard
to
an
do with
engine
hearing and
approaching, and
seeing?
a car pulled up. The creature took one final look around and leapt away, and a wave of relief flooded over me as I heard a familiar voice.
David, get in now!
I didn't think twice. I jumped into the car and we...
Am I missing something? Am I not seeing the same thing here? Or was that a completely different person from the one he said was on Tinder? And was that actually a downgrade? Skinwalker? Yeah, no.
sped away,
Duh.
glancing back to see the creature fading into the night.
Fucking-
My real date had saved me, and I thanked her with a tight hug.
What the hell was that thing?
I don't know, some kind of mutated person or something? I'm just so glad you found me.
Yeah, same here, David. I was so worried when you didn't respond to my messages.
How did you find me anyway? Later that night, after we talked it all through, we lay in bed. I heard her breathing softly next to me, and I turned toward her, expecting to see her face. But instead, the creature from the alleyway was
what
there,
the fuck?
pale, grinning, and with 2 rows of teeth. Its eyes were shut, but it was real. It wasn't a dream. I pinched myself and muffled a scream as I realized that whatever that creature was, it found me. I'm trying not to wake it. Please send help.
It's so flippin'
Hey guys, my name's James, and I have a story to tell you.
Whoa.
It all started with me looking at Tinder profiles from bed. I was swiping through the different profiles quietly until something strange started to
Pretty
happen.
realistic
All
style
of the
here.
profiles had the name Mary. I started to scroll as fast as I could, but the profiles were still the same. No, they had something different. In the profile, there was a picture of a dead woman under some stairs, and every time I advanced on the profile picture, it looked closer and closer.
I have to assume it was 2 skinwalkers or something. I don't know, man.
And closer.
Bad dream, man?
It was all a nightmare. Suddenly, I got a text from Tinder. It was Angela, the girl I had agreed to go on a date with. Angela was a nice girl. We had talked for about 2 weeks until I asked her for dinner, which she accepted without any problems. I didn't want to be late for my first date, so I changed, put on some perfume, and ran out. The date at the restaurant was going well, until Angela asked me questions about my past dates, and I had to tell her about Mary. Mary and I had been dating for several years, but one day, in the middle of an argument, she fell down the stairs. She
Fell
died.
down the stairs, you say? Could it be you're haunted by the guilt that you killed your girlfriend in the heat of an argument and pushed her down the stairs, maybe? I don't know, guys. I think this guy might be feeling guilty because he killed his girlfriend in the heat of a moment.
And instantly. And that's what happened to Mary.
That's terrible, James. It's good that you're brave enough to come here and you can date again.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It just all happened so fast.
So, you want to replace me, James? James, what's wrong?
When I turned around, it wasn't Mary standing next to me, but the waitress. I'm sorry. I felt like I was dying of embarrassment. The whole restaurant was looking at me strangely, and I don't blame them. They probably think I'm crazy. Angela ignored what happened, saying that surely talking about Mary transported me to an ugly place and apologized. She's so nice.
What in the world is
Anyway,
happening
we
out
finished
there?
eating and we both went to my house. As soon as we arrived, Angela rushed over to me and gave me a passionate kiss. I hugged her as she gave it to me, but I couldn't help but open my eyes. In front of us was a huge mirror, and when I saw it, it wasn't Angela I was hugging. It was Mary. I panicked and pushed her away from me, but when I did, it was Angela again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have rushed in like that.
No, this is my fault, you see. I'm still not over what happened with Mary. You see, it's not as simple as I told you. The night of the fight, we were arguing. She lunged at me, and I pushed her. That's when she fell down the stairs.
Oh, I'm sorry. It must be very hard to live with that. But don't blame yourself. It was an accident. It could have happened to anyone, in any situation.
I know. Thank you. Angela, you're really supportive. Immediately, Angela hugged me, and we buried the subject. A while later, we were both in bed. It was 3 in the morning, and suddenly a Tinder message woke me up. I opened the message out of curiosity, and it was a message from Angela. She seemed very angry that we had missed our date at the movies. At that moment, I started to remember. I wasn't going to go to a restaurant. I was going with Angela to the movies. As the memory started to pop into my head, I remembered today's date. At the restaurant, at my house, everywhere. I was alone. Angela was never with me. Then, whose hand is on my chest now? Without warning, the monster began to savagely choke me. It had superhuman strength. This was not Mary. I didn't know who this monster was. I managed to kick her out of the way and ran to the exit door, but it was locked.
This is another
I looked around in terror, but the monster was gone. Where are you? Leave me alone! Suddenly, the door behind me burst open, and before I could react, Mary grabbed me by the head and dragged me across the apartment to throw me violently against the window from my 3rd-floor apartment. As I fell to the floor in agony, my head clouded over and I began to remember again. I remember arguing with Mary at our house. Mary was furious because she checked my cell phone and saw that I was talking on Tinder with a girl named Angela. Suddenly, Mary pushed me angrily. I was the one who fell down the stairs. As I reached the bottom, I only remember Mary at the top of the stairs, crying and apologizing as she came down to help me. You're a monster! A monster! After that, I opened my eyes again. I was still in agony, but I had fallen from no apartment. I'm in an ambulance. I have a respirator in my mouth and I can't talk. I couldn't even move. The place is full of paramedics, but the only person I can see is Mary, who's in the ambulance in front of me, crying.
I'm sorry, James. I never meant for it to end like this. I swear, it was an accident. I'm a monster.
I thought that in a situation like this, my body would hurt a lot, but no, I don't feel anything. All I can do is look at Mary crying. I don't know if I'll survive this. If there's one reason I want to survive this, it's to talk to Mary. I want to tell her that it was an accident, that this was not her fault, that she's not a monster.
I mean, if we're all being honest here, the guy's kind of the monster there, because he was cheating on her.
When I was younger, Valentine's Day used to be my favorite date of the year. My girlfriend and I had been dating for over 3 years,
nice
and things
style.
were going great. This year, I had a lot of plans for Valentine's Day, but something would come between me and my girlfriend.
Oh,
It started 2 days before Valentine's Day. Samantha hadn't answered my messages all day, which I thought was weird. I was about to go to her house, but suddenly she answered me. She told me she overslept, so she didn't go to work either. I offered to go see her, but she said no. Let's meet directly on Valentine's Day. At first, her messages seemed strange to me. They had a lot of spelling mistakes, which was unnatural for her. But I assumed she had just woken up, and she told me a few days before her cell phone was not working the best way. The next day went by pretty fast. I spent the day working, and Sam responded to me at very random times. She was acting weird. Did something happen to her? I decided
don't
not to
trust
insist
this.
too much, since the next day I would go to see her in the morning. When the sun came up, I got ready as I could finally see her. I put on the best perfume I had, bought her flowers
Cologne.
and chocolates, and with a smile, I went to her house.
I have
No
a
matter
bad
what was
feeling
happening
about
to
this.
Samantha, this day was going to be sensational. As I was arriving at her house, I received a message from Samantha. The message said that she was going to take a shower and that she left the front door open. I was surprised at how reckless she was, but I just went along with it. As I entered the house, I saw that the bathroom door was closed and there was a noise coming from behind it into the shower, so I sat down to wait for her. Suddenly, the door opened and steam came out of the bathroom, but instead of meeting my girlfriend, someone else appeared. A white, scrawny, and very tall man came out of the bathroom wearing my girlfriend's underwear. But the worst thing, what surprised me the most, was his face. That wasn't his face. He had pieces of skin stuck all over his face.
What?
It was
the-
probably sealed with a very strong glue, since the man walked with extreme tranquility without the skin falling off. Not only was the skin glued, but also the hair. But I recognized that golden hair. That was Samantha's hair.
Who are you? Where's Samantha? What are you saying, Roy? I am Samantha. Can't you see my face? Don't you like me anymore?
What? Huh? I'm sorry, you what?
My first impulse was to run as fast as I could to the door, but it wasn't going to happen. This man was a little closer, so at a great speed he arrived first, and with his body he covered the door.
Hey, my love, have you forgotten yourself at home? Why are you so upset? You psycho! Where is Sam?
Enraged, it seems that the man didn't like my comment. So furious, he jumped at me and grabbed my head with his two huge hands, shouting at me, face to face.
What part don't you understand that I am Sam? Have you forgotten about me? Did you hit your head coming in?
Ugh.
You know what? I'd kill you for questioning your girlfriend, but I'll spare your life for now, just because you brought me my favorite chocolates. Stay here while I change, honey. I'll be back in a while.
When the man closed the door and left me in the dark, before I could get up to turn on the light, I felt something strange next to me, like wet. Suddenly, a horrible smell came up my nose.
Ick.
It was disgusting. I felt like I was going to vomit at any moment. I held my nose, and in desperation, I went to turn on the light in the basement.
Some kind
On
of
the way,
crazy.
I felt many insects hitting my face. I knew what this meant, but I
Dog
didn't want to
repellent?
assume it, so I wanted to avoid it as much as possible. When I turned on the light, I couldn't avoid reality for another
Oh, that's
second.
horrible.
That was Samantha's body. The body was decomposing. Around Sam, flies seemed to be feasting. As if it wasn't enough, many parts of her face and
Was it too much to hope and assume that Sam just went nutsoids and tried to kill him? Was it too much to hope that it was actually just a crazy high school girlfriend or something?
body were disfigured or skinless. What that psycho was wearing on his face was really Samantha's face. I fell to my knees on the floor, and almost ignoring the disgusting smell that didn't let me breathe, I cried as hard as I could. After a few seconds of wailing, I tried to open the door as hard as I could. I was always a small man, strength was never my thing, and even at that moment, I felt totally useless. I was facing a simple wooden door, crying, while a man was putting on my girlfriend's clothes, who was already behind me, decomposing. I felt pathetic, and I was. From 1 second to the next, the door opened.
Would have been better,
But
right?
not because I forced it, but because the man had returned.
Oh,
I'm back, honey. You!
Ahead of me, knocking me down with absurd ease, The man who killed my girlfriend was standing in front of me. That man was wearing Samantha's favorite skirt with a black top that he couldn't even finish zipping up.
Hey, I understand that you're very upset, but let me explain what happened. This man came into my house and tried to kill me. He told me he was watching you on the street, always dreaming of being your partner. Can you believe it? He came with the intention of killing me and pretending to be me. What a psycho.
Furious,
he's
I stood up
lost
and
his-
lunged at him again. But
Hey, honey, you shouldn't be so upset. I wasn't going to let this man come between us. I killed him as soon as I saw him. You should have heard how he screamed. It was delicious. His screams still sound in my head. What an exquisite melody. I assure you, he suffered a lot before he died. You see, honey, I couldn't pass up an exquisite sound like that. So before I killed him, I tortured him. I made sure he survived until the last second he could feel pain. Anyway, honey, are we going to a nice restaurant?
Ah, thank God. Feel bad for that kid, though.
I had made it. I had escaped. I ran to the door, crying and preparing to tell the police everything. But something in me was wrong. All my fear, helplessness, and sadness turned into hatred. Pure hatred towards the monster that had taken away the most important thing in my life. Instead
I
of
feel
running
bad
away,
for this kid.
I turned to him. He was still alive, and confused, he spoke to me.
My love, I don't feel good. I think you hurt me. You are not my love. You are not Samantha. You took her from me. She's never coming back because of you.
When I finished, I just fell on the floor and started crying, in shock because of everything that had happened.
I cannot
When the police
blame
came,
this guy for
I
what
was
he did.
arrested for double homicide, but after the truth came out, I was released. After that, I could never be in a couple again. I never felt I could open my heart to someone else and experience anything like that again. Every
blame
Valentine's
him.
Day is torture. Torture where in my nightmares I relive everything that happened that day. I recently started therapy.
Good
I
for
hope
him.
someday to be able to heal, but in the meantime, I spend Valentine's Day locked up and alone, trying to face my memories.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the
Honestly,
video. If so,
I could not imagine doing anything else. I've never been in a situation like that, so I don't know what I'd do like in a situation like that, but I do not at all blame this poor kid for what he did. Jeez, yeah, I don't. That's insane. So I guess some crazy gay guy decided. That's wild, man. The wildest part of that is the guy cut her up, like cut her skin off and put it on himself, like glued it on himself. Who did he think he was fooling with that?
please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support
Beyond.
this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing.
Astonished.
It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
There was nothing special about that night, except for the fact that it was Valentine's Day, and I wanted to take Julia
Yikes.
out for dinner.
Tim Burton.
It's been weeks since we have spoken to each other properly. She has changed since our daughter Dorothy died in an accident. You see,
That's a little insensitive to say. Yeah, people change after death.
the loss has affected her differently. The way she is coping with this loss will surely destroy what is left of our marriage. Ever since the day our daughter died, she's been detached from reality. I suppose in a way, we all were, but my wife was different. She couldn't, or wouldn't come to terms with the fact that Dorothy was gone. Julia didn't sit in her bed crying for hours, nor did she spend every waking moment surrounded by photo albums or Dorothy's clothes. She didn't cry at all when the cops called to inform us that Dorothy was run over by a pickup truck while hitchhiking to a rock concert.
Poor kid.
Julia and I cremated our daughter. Yes, Julia insisted on it. I wish I never agreed. Now, she carries the urn around. She talked to it as if it was a real person.
Comfortable?
She murmured as she strapped it into the baby seat of our car just the other week. I watched her through the rearview mirror, and my skin crawled. Needless to say, after that I stopped going out with my wife. I could see people talking about her everywhere we went. They would point her out silently and whisper among themselves.
Now, I don't think it's right to judge anybody's way of coping with the loss of a loved one, but it seems like she's not coping with the loss at all, and is instead somehow convinced that her daughter's remains are a person? A still living person? I think his wife might have gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I used to feel bad for my wife, but now this routine is getting on my nerves. I am heartbroken and exhausted pretending our daughter is alive. So that night, I decided to put a stop to this. I ordered food and set the table in Valentine's theme. When Julia came downstairs and noticed all the red balloons and heart-shaped candles, I saw her eyes dazzle up. After all these gloomy days, I finally felt my wife noticing me.
Did you do this all by yourself?
Yep. Happy Valentine's Day, dear.
I went close to her. She was holding the urn to her chest. I said in a soft voice,
I know, Julia. We're going through a tough phase and you're in no mood to celebrate, but we need to live. Dorothy would have wanted us to celebrate tonight. Let's sit down and have a proper dinner, okay?
She gave me a surprised look, like I've said something weird.
Is it okay if Dorothy eats with us too?
God, Julia, please, let's not do this tonight.
Do what?
At this point, I was secretly hoping that tonight will be the night when things go back to normal.
How will Dorothy eat with us?
I asked, and the tiring, sad voice repeated. For a moment, the room was enveloped in stunned silence. Then Julia spoke.
Like she does every other night.
She sat down on the table and put the urn right next to her dinner plate. Just think about it. Candles were lit. Valentine's Day dinner it was, and I was sitting with my wife and the ashes of my dead daughter at the same table.
Okay, that's where you gotta draw the line, bud. There's finding unique and there's finding your own way to cope with a loss, and then there's not coping with a loss. Your wife is not coping with the loss, and I think it's time to send her to a nice, soft room with a very special jacket that gives her a hug all the time.
But still, I kept calm. At least she has agreed to eat dinner at the table and not in her room after days. It still progresses. Slowly, she will accept. It takes time to heal, I know that. But then she started talking to the urn.
Look how romantic Daddy is, Dorothy. Yeah, he is glad that you could join us. I'll set up a plate for you. Wait,
Julia, please. You don't have to go through this every night.
pass me the mashed potato. Dorothy wants some.
As she started cutting the steak, disregarding that I existed, I finally lost it.
Why can't you just talk to me, huh? Dorothy is dead. We lost our daughter to a car crash, Julia. Accept it. She's
That's
dead.
what I meant. It's time for Julia to go to a happy house, somewhere where
Stop
she can't
this
hurt
insanity.
herself.
It's hurting
Anyway.
both of us. This is not healthy. Why can't you see that?
Caught in a fit of rage, I grasped the tablecloth and pulled it towards me, sending the dishes crashing to the floor. Dorothy's urn, sitting atop one of the plates, succumbed to the same fate. It fell on the hard concrete and shattered.
Dory!
My wife screamed, leaping to her feet and dashing around the dining table.
No, baby, no!
Tears rolled down my eyes, realizing what damage I had done. Amidst the porcelain shards and utensils, the urn lay cracked in half, its lid nowhere to be found. Dorothy's ashes were scattered in those broken pieces. Julia landed knees first on the shards, the porcelain crunching under her weight. Nothing could have prepared me for what she did next.
Ew,
I watched in
gross.
horror
Oh,
as my
come
frantic
on,
wife
man.
snatched
That's
one
just
half of
wrong.
the urn
Ew,
and
ew,
stuck her
ew,
tongue out to
ew.
lick it. Her fingers desperately searching for the remains left on the floor. She swept her hands across the ground, cutting her skin up in the process, and shoved the whole lot in her mouth, her eyes rolling back inside her head. I wanted to vomit.
Dude,
No,
I
wanted to run. My heart was pounding at 10 times its normal rate, threatening to leap out of my throat. My skin was clammy and my vision blurred, but not enough to stop me from seeing the monster that was my wife, stuffing
Dude,
ashes,
that ain't your
blood,
wife
and
anymore.
porcelain shards
That's
down
a fucking
her throat.
creature.
Julia?
She slowly turned her head towards me, and a sick smile appeared on her face. Her bleeding mouth with ashes smearing on her white teeth gave me chills.
She will be with me now, forever.
Okay. I think this is beyond a freaking funny farm or a happy house. This is beyond a psych ward. This is a police situation. Jeez.
And went back to doing what she was doing. I ran to her and tried my best to pull her away. She kicked in the air and screamed.
No, baby! Don't be scared. Mommy's here.
I pleaded with Julia to stop this madness, but she didn't. I somehow dragged her away and locked her in our bedroom. She kept banging on the door until the paramedics arrived.
I think
It's been 3 years now since Julia has been put in a mental institution.
Thank God.
Every Valentine's Day, I go to visit my wife with a bouquet of red roses. I will go this year as well, but I know she won't talk to me. She only talks to herself now. The doctor says she sometimes imitates Dorothy's voice and pretends to be her own daughter, as if she has these dual personalities. She has completely lost it, and I know I'm not getting my family back. So, if you have someone
Damn.
special to spend your Valentine's Day with,
Oh, man. I feel like this guy is even worse of a situation than the poor kid, because, like, yeah, what the kid went through was awful and all that, but this guy lost his whole entire family. That's just... Damn.
you better make it memorable for them. Life has never been kind to the hearts filled with love. My name is Emily. I'm 26 years old, and I hate Valentine's Day.
Okay.
I know. What's not to love about
Aw,
a day
kitty.
dedicated to love and romance? But for me, it's sort of a reminder that I'm alone, and I'm genuinely too scared to ever be with anyone again.
Oh,
I've
boy.
been single for years now, ever since my Valentine's Day ended in what can only be described as an experience that will make your skin crawl. It was my
Yeah, he
second
has
year
to
of
live out
college.
the rest of his
I
life
was young and
knowing that
naive.
his daughter is dead and his wife went completely bananoids because of it. Toast! Toaster! What you doing, baby?
And honestly, I just wanted somebody to spend the day with.
Huh?
I had just broken up with my boyfriend of several months, and I was really feeling
Several
down about it.
months.
As I walked to class, one of my friends came up to me and
Baby
handed me her
girl.
phone. She had something to show me.
That's barely
What's
even
this?
a boyfriend.
It's a new dating app. I just signed up for it, and I've already got a date for Valentine's Day. Girl, you better as well.
I took the phone and looked at it. I don't remember for sure
Now, I will say that there are some people who deal with grief in the way that they consume the ashes of their loved one. And as as I'm aware, there's nothing unhealthy about eating the ashes themselves. I'm sure it's not good for you, but there's very little research on the health issues that it could cause. Because there's very few people who do it. It's no different than just having a little locket of the ashes or something like that.
Sure what the app was called, but I know it
It's a
wasn't one
little
of the
gross,
mainstream ones.
yeah, but
I think it was some off-brand dating app.
I'm
Well,
sure
I thought about it for a few minutes and then decided to download it. I figured, what could it hurt? Sitting in classes all day, I began to get rather excited about the prospect of going on a date with someone new.
I guess
As
long as you're
Valentine's
not
Day
hurting
neared,
yourself,
I matched with a
you're
guy
fine.
who seemed really nice. We talked for a few days, and then we decided to meet up.
You can count on me to not eat anybody's ashes. That's not how I deal with things. I kind of just try to separate it from myself. It's hard to explain. The best way I could describe it is I don't want to view the body or the burial. I want to view the person who passed through the lens of my own memory and have those memories be at the forefront of my mind. And that's it. I don't
He
want to
told me he
remember
would pick
them
me up from
just
my dorm at 7
laying there
p.m.
dead.
Let me stress, this guy had like no red flags. I had no reason to believe that he wasn't perfect. Okay, so his pictures were a bit hot, but I figured he was just trying to show off his best side, you know? Still, our
It's
chats had
easy
barely
for
a
people
dull
to
moment, and as
pretend.
we continued to talk, I couldn't help but think that I had finally found someone who I could connect with. I liked funny cat videos, and he had an adorable one of his own. He liked hiking, and I love nature. It seemed like we were a match made in heaven. So,
You want
when he
some
came to
milk?
pick me up on Valentine's Day, I was beyond excited. I remember waiting in my
Good
room,
kitty.
staring at the clock as it ticked closer and closer to 7 p.m. I was so nervous, I could barely sit still. Finally, there was a knock at my door. I leaped up to answer
Probably a
it,
bit
and
of
there
a
he
unique
was.
case, but
He was even more handsome in person. He had dark
Yeah.
hair and piercing gray eyes. He was wearing a black leather jacket and jeans. He looked like he belonged in a motorcycle gang, but I didn't care. I still like bad boys.
Toaster,
Emily?
you smell.
Yes, it's so nice to finally meet you, Nicholas. Come in, please.
I stepped aside to let him in, my heart racing the entire time. I closed the door
What a
behind
fuzzy
him,
chicken.
and then we just kind of stood there, staring at each other for a few awkward moments. As we stood there, I couldn't help but notice a strange tattoo on his neck.
5.
It
Oh.
looked like a prison number.
Whoa, that's a cool tattoo. What does it mean?
Although I was too absorbed at the moment to notice his discomfort, I did hear the shift in his voice as he answered.
Nothing. Just thought it was cool back in the day. Let's get out of here.
As we walked out of my dorm,
No, hell
he
no.
put his arm
Red
around
flag.
me.
Immediate red flag. A number tattoo on his neck. Immediate shift to trying to cover it. Said he looked like a biker gang member. There is something wrong with this dude.
And I leaned into
Oh,
him.
she's putting on the rose.
I felt so safe and comfortable with him. We walked to his car, a black SUV, and got in.
A black
So,
SUV,
where
another
are we
red
going?
flag.
I thought we could go for a walk in the park. It's such a beautiful night outside.
A walk
I
in
agreed,
the park,
and we
another
headed to
red
the park.
flag.
We walked and talked, and I told him all about myself. I told him about my
Girlie, you're going out on a date with a man you just met from the internet. And I'm assuming she hasn't told anybody she's going on this date. You're out in a empty park at night.
family, my friends, and my hobbies. He listened intently, and I
This
felt
is
like he really
red
cared about what I
flag
had to
central.
say. That's when I began to notice that the park was eerily empty. There wasn't a soul in sight.
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
is everyone? It's so quiet and empty.
He looked at me with a strange expression on his face, but he didn't answer. He just kept walking, his arm around my waist. We came to a stop in front of a large tree. This was when I began to feel really uneasy. I tried to take a step back, but he held me close. I looked up at him, and he was staring at me with an intensity that I can only describe as hunger. His piercing gray eyes had taken on an almost insane quality as he stared at me with them widened, and the red veins at the very edges of his eyes became more pronounced.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
We called it.
I tried to pull away, wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. He didn't answer me, but his grip tightened. He just stared at me, his eyes drilling into mine. And then, without warning, he attacked me. Grabbing my throat, he began to choke me. I struggled against him, but I couldn't break free.
Why?
I could feel my vision start to fade as I gasped for air. Just when I thought I was going to pass out, he released me. I fell to the ground, coughing and gasping for air. He loomed over me, a sickening grin on his face, and that's when I saw it again. He grabbed his jacket and tossed it to the side. His prison number flashed in my mind as I saw what he had been wearing under his jacket, an orange jumpsuit.
You're an inmate!
He just laughed, a cold, maniac laugh that sent chills down my spine. Grabbing his face with his nails, he dug them into his skin and began to slowly scratch his face, starting from directly below his eyes till he reached his lips. As blood began to run down his face, he just kept laughing.
I can't.
I was in pure terror at this point, and I scrambled to my feet and started to run. But he was too fast. He caught up to me and tackled me to the ground. I screamed as he began to choke me again. I thought for sure that this was it, that I was going to die. But then, just as suddenly as he had attacked me, he stopped. He got up and dusted himself off and looked down at me again. Finally, he spoke, and with each word, the blood from his face splattered down into my face.
Let's play a game, Emily. I escaped just so I could have some fun on Valentine's Day. Now, I'll give you 3 minutes. Try to make it out of the park before I catch you.
Wait,
but
hold
if I
on.
do
Why
catch
did it
you,
change to
you'll never be
53
alone
a
on
second ago?
Valentine's Day again.
What the hell?
Staring at me, he began to count down from 3. I struggled to my feet and began to run. I could hear him counting behind me as he stood there in the park with blood streaming from his face. As I glanced back, I saw what looked like a trail of blood following him as he slowly began to walk after me.
That's just
I ran as
weird.
fast as I could, but I knew he was going to catch me. There was no way I could outrun him.
3, 2, 1.
His voice stopped, and suddenly, I heard crazed footsteps pounding behind me as he began to run. I was about to give up. As I ran, my legs were seared with the cold pain of exercise such as this. Just as he was about to catch up to me, though, I saw a ranger's car drive into the park.
Oh, thank God.
I think they were there to close
Park
up for the
ranger.
night, but to this day, I still don't care.
Help me!
I ran toward them shouting as the man who had been chasing me darted into the bushes. I heard a scream of anger from his direction as he realized that he had lost me. The ranger got out of his car and ran toward me as I collapsed into his arms, sobbing and
damn.
shaking uncontrollably.
What happened, miss? You're safe now.
Maybe I am.
Okay,
but
maybe this is just me. Maybe I was just raised in a different time. But to this day, I will never, ever agree to meet somebody in a place where there's no people or that is far away from where I live that I've only ever talked to on the internet. No, stranger danger. You never agree to meet someone off the internet. Yeah, online dating.
they never found him.
Good.
They never
Good
caught
way
the man
for
who had tried
freaks
to
and
kill
creeps
me.
to meet each other,
And
I
ever
guess.
since that day, I've been terrified of being alone on Valentine's Day,
I'm sure
and
there's,
just as equally
genuinely
terrified of
good
trying to find a
people on
date for
online
fear
dating
that
apps,
he
but it
or
seems
someone
they're
like
few
him
and far
shows up
between.
again.
I was never a fan of dating apps, but after my last breakup, my friend suggested I try Tinder, saying that it would make my dating life alive and fun again. Flying around and swiping random guys left to right when one of the profiles really caught my eye. It was a single pic, very closely taken, focused on the deep blue eyes of Ethan. Truth is not always what you see through your eyes, his bio read. Out of sheer curiosity, I swiped right. We matched, and eventually, our conversation led us to meet up, face to face. After some coffee at a place.
If you ever agree to meet somebody you don't know in real life, it's probably for the best. Dating these days is an absolute nightmare for everybody of every age. But if you ever agree to meet up with somebody you've only ever met over the internet, make sure somebody you know and trust to save your life in real life knows where you are when you're there. Make sure you go somewhere where there's going to be a lot of people. If they do not agree to meet you somewhere there's going to be a lot of people, do not agree to meet them. I feel like this should be basic safety etiquette, but clearly some people don't think that.
Place near my apartment, Ethan invited me for dinner at his apartment. As we ate dinner in the flickering candlelight,
Especially
I
never
couldn't
meet
help
this
but admire
person where
Ethan's
they
face.
live.
His emphasizing sharp jawline made my heart skip a beat. His Tinder profile hadn't captured the intensity in his eyes enough. There was a kind of manic hunger in them that sent a shiver down my spine.
Hunger.
Yet,
Wow.
there was an undeniable magnetism about him, a darkness that repelled and attracted me. Our conversation flowed surprisingly well. We bonded over underrated art and banned literature. He spoke of his love for Edgar Allan Poe, reciting verses about love and loss with a chilling intensity. As the night progressed, Ethan suggests we move to his balcony. How about we get some fresh air?
Nope. Do not go to the balcony. He's gonna push you off.
You'll love the view from here. I hesitated at first. The small, cluttered balcony felt oddly claustrophobic. But Ethan's smile, boyish and disarming, made me comfortable. The view from the balcony wasn't bad. The city lights below looked like scattered diamonds, but there was something very odd stuck in the air, making me wrinkle my nose.
Something smells meaty.
I commented, noticing a covered grill tucked in the corner. Ethan gave a creepy laugh,
Oh, no.
a hollow sound that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Just a little lamb burger, he said, his voice too casual. Family recipe, he whispered with a grin. He lifted the lid, revealing a sizzling patty. My stomach twisted. The lamb looked unnaturally dark, the edges grilled black. Suddenly, I noticed something more on the patty. There was a long strand of blonde hair wrapped around it. I felt like throwing up.
Whoa. That doesn't look too good. Making me sick.
I mumbled, backing away. All of a sudden, Ethan's smile disappeared. His eyes narrowed, the charming personality replaced by...
I have one other rule of meeting people you don't know. Never agree to go to a secondary location. If they try to force you to a secondary location, run as fast as you can anywhere. Especially somewhere where there's a lot of people, a crowd.
By a cold, dangerous gleam. I promise you'll love the taste of it. Just give it a try, Monica. The words sent a fresh wave of terror through me.
I don't feel well. I need to go.
No, you don't. He
Yes,
growled,
she does,
grabbing
but
my hand
you
with
don't get to
surprising
tell her
strength.
what she does and does not
What
do.
are you doing?
I screamed, trying to free myself. "Don't you see?" he hissed. His expression was now a mix of anger and desperation. "We were meant to be together forever." The smell in the air intensified, desperate by sheer terror. I wrestled free. I stumbled back, tripping over a metal bucket that was resting in the corner of the balcony. It clanged loudly, revealing its gruesome contents: a bleached skull and several long bones. Ethan raged at me again. "Monica, don't ruin the food!" But this time I was ready. With a rush of adrenaline, grabbing a metal spatula kept on top of the hot grill, I swung it at Ethan blindly. The thudding sound of metal on bone echoed in the night. Ethan fell to the ground,
Thank
a choked
God.
gasp escaping his lips. I was staring at him, the spatula trembling in my hand.
Girl, find
Nausea
a phone.
threatened to
Call
overwhelm me
911.
again, but this time it was mixed with a horrifying realization. The burger, the bones, Ethan's words, they all clicked into place. He wasn't just a psycho, he was a monster who couldn't handle rejection, and I was about to become another entry in his collection of discarded dates. Dazed and trembling, I ran to the lobby outside his apartment and called 911. The image of Ethan's twisted face and the gruesome contents of the bucket made my fingers tremble while dialed the call. Ethan remained unconscious until the police arrived.
Man,
A group
she
of
must
them
have
got
whacked
inside
him
his
hard.
apartment while I was escorted out by the paramedics.
Stinky
But even
weasel.
amidst the flashing lights and concerned questions, I was not able to shake the feeling of fear. God, I was on a date with a cannibal. The following
no
days
joy.
were a blur. News reports buzzed with Ethan's arrest. The police had discovered a hidden room in his apartment filled with the remains of young women. Each had matched with Ethan on dating apps, each lured under the pretense of romance. As the only alive key witness, my story is a chilling testament to the monster who hid behind a charming facade. Yet, a part of my mind remained haunted. The lingering smell and those horrific laughs in my nightmares. The echo of Ethan's words, "We were meant to be together forever," served as a constant reminder of the night I danced with death on a balcony bathed in moonlight. It was 9 years ago when I matched with Olivia on Tinder. She was 36, divorced, and living in a suburban area not far from my apartment. At 28, I was just looking for some fun, to be honest, and Olivia seemed perfect. We clicked instantly, bonding over a shared love for classic rock, horror movies, and a mutual disdain for small-town gossip. There was a spark between us, an electric attraction, so to say. "You like the Rolling Stones? No way, they're my favorite band."
Yeah, I saw them live back in '99. That was a wild night.
We decided to meet at a quiet
now
bar.
is even more dangerous than it was a few years ago, because now anyone can look like anything because, well, AI images and so many other things.
She recommended. I remember the place well. Dimly lit, with old wooden booths and a jukebox that played nothing but 80s hits. And then she walked in. Olivia was stunning. She had this effortless charm, a confident gait, and, well, a smoking hot body. We laughed, flirted, and drank more than we probably should have. She was blunt about her intentions. "I hope age isn't a damper. I mean, look at you. You can't be 8 years older to me."
I'll be honest, Ethan. I like going around with younger men, and I'm not looking for anything. Just so you know, it's a one-night thing.
Sounds perfect to me. We left the bar, and Olivia invited me to her place. Her bungalow was old, with a Victorian style that looked kind of unsettling under the moonlight. My drunken brain felt a twinge of unease as soon as I stepped inside. The house was beautifully maintained, but had an unnerving air about it. The living room had antique furniture, dark wood paneling, and heavy drapes. But something didn't fit. The creamy, textured carpet, it clashed with the decor, standing out like a sore thumb. "Nice place you got here. Daddy sells oil?"
Daddy shot himself when I was 3. I got the place in a divorce. My ex-husband was into real estate. Want another
Yeah,
drink?
I don't think I could ever.
She handed me a glass
get
of whiskey
remarried
and we
either.
settled on the couch. Her touch was intoxicating, and soon our fingers were exploring each other's while our eyes locked. There was something about her brutal honesty, her charm, and her confidence that had me drunk other than the Jack Daniels. You have great taste in decor, very vintage.
I'm a sucker for antiques. They have a history, a story to tell. Just like us.
Oh, and what's our story?
Two strangers meeting by chance and sharing a night of adventure.
Sounds exciting. What kind of adventure do you have in mind?
One that starts with good whiskey and ends with... well, we'll see.
I like the sound of that. You're full of surprises, aren't you?
I don't like the
Only
sound
the
of
good
that
kind.
at all.
What about you? What surprises do you have up your sleeve?
You'll have to stick around to find out.
I think I just might. So, tell me, what a handsome guy like you doing on Tinder?
Looking for someone intriguing. I guess I found her.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Good to know. And what about you? Why Tinder?
Not many places for women like me to find young men like you.
Lively, huh? I can do lively.
I bet you can. Shall we take this adventure downstairs? I
Nope.
have a special room for my guests.
Lead the way. But as she grabbed my arm to lead
Nope.
me to her bedroom, a wave of nausea hit me. I stumbled, and before I could stop myself, it came out. I vomited all over the carpet. I remember Olivia's demeanor changing in an instant. She flew into a fit of rage, rushing to grab a mop, her face twisted with anger.
You idiot! You ruined my carpet!
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I sew it with my hands. The one thing in this house that doesn't remind me of my sick ex-husband. And now, your bile is swimming over it.
Realizing I had blown my chance, I mumbled an apology and hurried out of the house. My head was spinning, my stomach churning. I made it home and collapsed into bed, cursing my capacity for ruining what would have been a glorious night. Now, 9 years later, I saw her face plastered on the news. Olivia, now 45, was arrested. A secret torture room was uncovered in the basement of her bungalow, where she kept young men and tortured them.
My guy
One of her
really
victims had
escaped.
managed to escape and alerted the authorities. The police found evidence of cannibalism, token parts of previous lovers she had taken, and the final horrifying reveal, a carpet made of human skin. I sat there, staring at the TV in disbelief. The creamy textured carpet flashed in my mind, and a chill ran down my spine as I realized how
Gross.
lucky I was. When I matched with
Wow. Okay. I figured she had some crazy stuff up in that basement. I could not have foreseen cannibalism. I was expecting, yes, at the very least, a torture dungeon in the basement, but not
David on Tinder, I
Wow,
couldn't
that's
believe that
crazy.
he'd swiped
Very
right on
Ted
me.
Bundy.
He was 27, an Australian globetrotter with an infectious smile and tousled blonde hair. His tan was just perfect. It had to be because he surfed.
Yeah. Very, very, skin carpet. Why? I mean, I guess people have bare skin carpets. Some people have bare skin rugs, I guess. It was a similar idea in her twisted
And he wore
mind.
an intriguing blue beaded necklace in every photo. We started flirting over texts almost immediately. So, what does a gorgeous girl like you do for fun on a gorgeous Boston evening like today?
Besides swiping on Tinder, mostly exploring the city and avoiding bad dates.
Oh, you deserve a good one. Drinks tomorrow night? Smooth.
Wow. You don't waste time, do you?
Why waste it? It's the most precious thing in the world. Well, except for that smile of yours. He was good. We exchanged numbers and decided to meet at a pub downtown. The night came and I was nervous but excited. I arrived early, found a table and waited, and then waited some more.
Damn, bitch just
Rejected
kinda got
two
a
advances
five
from
head.
strangers for him and let a martini sit, hoping that my surfer boy would surface. But he didn't. An hour passed and still no David. It was then that it dawned on me. He had stood me up. I rushed back to my place. Even my calls weren't getting placed. Frustrated, I texted him.
Hey, where are you? I was waiting for you for over an hour.
I was there at the pub. Didn't see you. See this.
Men and their lies.
For real.
Stop disappointing me further.
You need proof? Here you go. He sent a photo of the pub. It was from the same night, judging by the people and the lighting.
Where were you?
Near the jukebox. Where were you?
Near the jukebox. How could we have not seen each other?
God knows. I was confused. Something didn't feel right to me.
I'm not sure that making up would be a good idea.
His responses caught me off guard. What harm could a coffee do? So reluctantly, I agreed. But stupid me, the same thing happened again. I sat there in the cafe, feeling more and more foolish as time passed. Eventually, I had to get up and leave. I couldn't believe that the guy had made a fool of me, not once, but twice.
Damn.
When I texted him angrily, he simply replied with another photo, this time of the cafe from that evening.
This is ridiculous. Are you messing with me?
No, I swear I was there. Maybe we just keep missing each other.
I tried to call you from the cafe. There was no ring.
I have some troubles with my American SIM card. Need Wi-Fi to make calls. That was it. I wasn't going to be fooled twice. I blocked his number, chalking it up to a bizarre catfishing experience. Months passed and I forgot about David. But then one night, while out at a club with friends, I saw him. The same tousled hair, the same blue beaded necklace. He stood in the distance, almost like a shadow, but I could feel his eyes upon me. My heart raced as I approached him, but he vanished into the crowd. Back home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Curiosity and a lingering sense of unease led me to unblock David's number. I called him, but again, there was no ring. Surprisingly, a few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a message. It was a photo of the nightclub from that very night.
What the hell is going on?
Just wanted to see you again. I owed you some answers. Anger surged through me, but before I could respond, another message came through. This one was a newspaper clipping with David's picture. The headline read, Australian surfer, fourth victim of the Boston Barbie, matched on Tinder the night before his poisoning. My blood ran cold.
Wait,
I stared at the clipping, which proclaimed
huh?
that David was dead. He had been dead for months, murdered by a serial killer. My hands trembled as I typed a reply.
This isn't funny. How are you sending these?
Thank you for liberating me. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo of me, taken from behind. I was sitting on my couch, staring at my phone in horror.
Yo, what?
Every hair on my body stood on end. I gathered the courage to turn around, expecting to see someone standing there. But there was no one. Instead, on the floor, where no one had been a moment before, lay David's blue beaded necklace.
Dang. Wait, that's kind of crazy. It kind of harkens back to the old who was phone thing. You know, like the old story, boy and his girlfriend are making out. Her father calls her on the phone. Girl says, my father's been dead for 10 years. Who was on the phone? I think it kind of reminds me of that. But for a more modern audience. So I think the weirdest story was probably the lady with the torture dungeon in her basement. Yeah, always ends up with online dating somehow. I think the story that made me feel the worst for the person in the story was probably the one where the poor guy's wife went crazy because their daughter died and ended up having to go to a mental hospital. Other than that, thank you all for joining me for Spooky Scary Saturday 69.
69.
Yeah, the torture dungeon was pretty high up there on the weirdness scale. I can't remember if it was Ed Gein or whom, but I remember there was one prolific serial killer who did like skin his victims and make little things out of the skins and whatnot, and even cannibalize them. I can't remember whom it was. There have been way too many flippin' weirdos out there. Anyways, thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. I hope to hang out with you again Tuesday night. Till Tuesday. It was Geen. Thank you. God.
Yeah, it was. I just checked.
I figured it was Geen. I can never remember these things. So many of these super popular serial killers did so many things that were similar to each other that it just sort of bleeds into one another after a while. Yes, Egin was very similar to the torture dungeon lady. Because she literally had a human skin rug in her house. Like, that is very Geen. Anyways, I'll catch you all next time. Till next week, remember to stay out of cramped spaces you can get caught up in. Stay out of engine compartments. Stay out of traffic. Stay hydrated. Stay awesome, possums. I love you all. Please have a good night. I know I'll have an awesome night, possums. And, I hope to hang out with you again soon. I had a blast with you all, and I'll catch you on the flip-flop next time. Stay tuned.